Hello and welcome to True North EV. I'm your host, James, coming to you from Manitoba, Canada. Today, I've got a full first impression report on our brand new 2026 Chevrolet Equinox EV LT1. 3 weeks of real Winnipeg driving, city streets, highway runs, and everything in between. I also want to share some really exciting news on the Manitoba provincial EV Rebate Program because there has been a significant development in the Budget 2026 announcement that every Manitoba driver considering an EV needs to hear about. And we have got a camping trip in the works for this summer with not one but two electrified vehicles in our group. So I will give you the preview on that too. A lot to cover. Let's get into it. Let me start with some context, especially for anyone who is newer to the show. My EV journey started in 2019. That was when we purchased our 2019 Hyundai Kona Electric. And honestly, that vehicle changed everything for me. Not just in how I thought about driving, but in how I thought about energy, infrastructure, about what the future of transportation actually looks like. It lit the fire. Now, the Manitoba Electric Vehicle Association already existed before we got to Kona, but I will tell you this, actually owning and living with an EV gave me a completely different level of drive. No pun intended, to get involved, to push things forward, to help Manitoba EV grow into what it is today. There is something about being in it every day that changes how seriously you take the mission. From the Kona, we moved to a 2016 Tesla Model X. And the Model X was impressive. The performance, the range, the autopilot, the software updates. For its time, it set the standard. We loved it. We also camped with both these vehicles, which I will come back to in a bit because EV camping is not new territory for us. But by 2026, a 10-year-old Tesla is a different proposition than a new one. Technology moves fast in this space. And when we started seriously looking at what was available now, particularly the Equinox EV at the price point it sits at, and with the incentive stacks that was available to us, the decision made a lot of sense. 3 weeks ago, we drove home in a 2026 Chevrolet Equinox EV LT. And today, I'm going to tell you what it has been like. Before I get into the vehicle itself, I want to talk about the incentive picture on our purchase. Because I think the combination of programs we were able to stack is something a lot of Manitobans are not fully aware of. The first piece is the federal EVAP rebate, the EV Affordable Program. I covered this in detail in a previous episode, so I will keep it brief here. EVAP provides up to $5,000 off the purchase price of an eligible new EV, and it comes right off the price at the dealership. You do not apply for it separately. You do not wait for a check. It is deducted at the point of sale. For us, that was straightforward and seamless. The second piece is something that caught a few people off guard, including some folks who assumed the window had closed. Gonna go back and cut that out. We're also Costco executive members, and Costco Canada has a GM vehicle rebate program running through the end of April 2026. I think it should keep going, but I haven't seen anything about it. I'm sure it's been going for a couple of years, so I can't see them canceling it. But as an executive member, we were eligible for up to $1,200 off selected new GM vehicles, including the Equinox EV. So you don't, there is, when you look online, it does say you have to register and apply for it and all that. The dealership did all that for us. They just needed our Costco membership number, and it was all done. We got emails afterwards saying that we were enrolled in the program and all that, but that was all the dealership doing. The third piece is the Manitoba Provincial EV Rebate. And this is the one I am most excited to talk about today because there has been a big development. The Manitoba Electric Vehicle Rebate Program was originally set to close at the end of March 2026. A lot of people were watching that deadline nervously, especially us. I wanted to make sure to get it in before the deadline, but in Budget 2026, the Manitoba government announced that the program has been extended. It is not done. It is continuing. So that's both on the new and used vehicles. Here is what the program offers. $4,000 on the purchase of a new eligible electric vehicle. $2,500 on the purchase of a pre-owned eligible EV. And for leases, anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 on a new EV, depending on the lease term. Vehicles must be purchased from a Manitoba dealership with a maximum MSRP of $70,000. Application goes through Manitoba Public Insurance at their website, evrebate.mpi.mb.ca, and once approved, MPI issues a check. It was actually really straightforward, really easy. It is a little more work on the buyer's side, but it is really straightforward, and you could go in, check to see if it's still pending, if they've looked at it, or if it's approved. We got our provincial rebate approval, which is $4,000 check, which is on its way. Combined with the $5,000 from EVAP and the $1,200 from Costco, we are looking at over $10,000 in incentives on this purchase. That is real money. That is money that meaningfully changes the cost of ownership calculation. And here is something I want to flag for the camping trip I am going to mention later. One of our friends who is joining us, they picked up a used plug-in hybrid. FEVs are eligible under the Manitoba program. She applied and was approved. I think it was less than, I think it's $1,500 for the used EV or used plug-in hybrids. Used EVs get the full $2,500. Plug-in hybrids get less. And same with the federal new used or the provincial new and used plug-in hybrids. They get a little less. And federally, they get a little less, I believe, also. So across our little group, we have got multiple Manitoba families benefiting from these programs. The bottom line, if you are a Manitoba resident considering an EV purchase right now, the provincial rebate program is still live thanks to the Budget 2026 extension. Stack it with the federal EVAP rebate. Check if you are a Costco member. There is two different numbers. So there is, if you're an executive member, you get a certain amount, the $1,200. And if you're not an executive member, there is still a rebate, Costco rebate. It's just not as much. So do the math. The numbers are genuinely compelling. All right, let's move on to the vehicle itself. First thing I want to say about the Equinox EV, my wife is really happy with it. And that matters. She drove the Model X. She loved a lot about the Tesla experience. And stepping into a new vehicle is always a bit of an adjustment. But what she found in the Equinox EV is that it gives her a lot of the things she really loved about the Tesla. The feel of the premium cabin, the technology, the smooth and quiet drive, like really quiet. Now, in a brand new vehicle at a much more accessible price point. That is a win. The infotainment system is running Google built-in. Now, I want to be clear here because this trips people up. The Equinox EV does not have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. What it does have is the Google Play Store built right into the system, which means you can download apps you actually use. Google Maps is native, Google Assistant is there, and you can pull in the apps that matter to you directly. So coming from Tesla's proprietary closed ecosystem, having access to an open app environment has actually been really welcome for us. It doesn't have all the apps. I know, heck, we've downloaded Amazon Prime on it. We've downloaded, there was a couple of Tubi, I think Plex. So we've downloaded YouTube. We've downloaded a few video deals so that while we're waiting for either charging or for people to come out of the store or whatnot, We can sit and watch a movie, or while we go camping, who knows? It also does over-the-air updates. We actually just received our first over-the-air updates. One of the major things it deleted actually was Alexa, which I know I tried. Most of our house is set up on Alexa, so I tried actually downloading it to try to get it working even shortly after we got the vehicle, and it already wasn't wanting to connect. So I kind of figured it was on the way out. So the rated range on the Equinox EV LT is 515 kilometers. Now, we have been charging to 80% as a daily habit. Most EV owners have been doing it. I know there's new vehicles out there that say you can charge up to 100%, but 80% is more than enough. And we have been consistently seeing around 450 kilometers of indicated range at that charge level. If you do the math, that actually suggests we are tracking at or slightly better than the rated range when calculated at full charge. That is a pleasant surprise and a good sign for real-world efficiency, especially since we don't drive it like super nice. We don't baby it. One thing that is important for Manitoba listeners to understand about a cold climate EV purchase, the Equinox EV LT has a heat pump standard. In our winters, that matters enormously. A heat pump is far more efficient at managing cabin temperatures than a resistive heater, which essentially just burns battery to make heat. In -20 Manitoba conditions, having the heat pump means your range holds up better than it would on an older platform without one. Now, let me tell you about what day-to-day life with an Equinox EV actually looks like in Winnipeg. One pedal driving. I know the Tesla kind of had it. It went down to about, I think it was 5-10 kilometers an hour, and then you did have to actually put your foot on the brake. I want to spend a minute on this, on the one pedal driving, because it is one of those things that sounds like a gimmick until you try it. And then you cannot imagine going back. It's always awful going from the Equinox to my Nissan. For those that don't know, my regular driver is a 2014 Nissan Leaf. The Equinox, my wife is the one mostly driving that. So with regenerative braking engaged, you lift off the accelerator and the car slows itself down by feeding energy back into the battery. In city driving, stop signs, lights, slowing for turns, you are almost never touching the brake pedal. I got the hang of it within probably less than an hour. We have barely touched the brakes at all since picking it up. It is smooth, intuitive, and knowing that your deceleration is putting energy back into the battery rather than wasting it as heat through the brake pads just feels right. I think we've touched the brake pedal probably altogether maybe half dozen times. So home charging, for those again that have been with me for a while, we don't have a garage. Our level 2 charger is mounted on the back of our fence with a weatherproof flap to protect the connection. 48 amp, 240 volt setup. We plug it in at night. We have a little butt flap in our fence, and every morning we wake up to a charged vehicle. We charge 80% as our daily routine. That is the sweet spot for battery longevity on most EVs. Some of the new ones, not so much, doesn't matter. And 80% of a 515 kilometer rated range gives us more than enough for any normal Winnipeg day. You just start your day charged and ready. You stop thinking about fuel. And speaking of fuel, I do not miss the gas stations other than the window cleaning. I especially do not miss them right now. Gas in Winnipeg is sitting around $1.70 a liter as I record this. Every time I drive past a gas station or I have to fill up my work truck, feel very calm about that number. Electricity in Manitoba is one of the cheapest in the country, and charging at home overnight costs a fraction of what the equivalent distance in a gas vehicle would cost. The math gets more satisfying every month. I guess just as a comparison, so I have a 2026 Chevy Equinox EV. Obviously, my in-laws actually have, I believe it's a 2020 Chevy Equinox, the gas version, to go from there. They live out of the city, almost an hour out of the city. So for them to come to the city and back, it costs them about $20 in gas. For us to go down there and back, it cost us, I think rounding up was about $3.50. I was rounding up, and that was on a cold, windy day. So yeah, quite a bit cheaper. Winnipeg roads in spring, post-winter potholes are, as always, an adventure. The Equinox EV handles them fine. And I will say the ride quality on this vehicle is actually more comfortable than the Model X. The suspension on the Equinox absorbs the rough stuff better. That was not something I expected going in, but it has been a consistent impression over 3 weeks. Parking around the city is easy. The footprint of the Equinox EV is very manageable in parkades and grocery lots. No issues there at all, especially even being a very base model trim. It's got the 360 camera, which makes parking a breeze. So we have done a few highway runs since picking up the Equinox EV. So I want to give you both the good and the one thing that was mildly annoyed to me. So the good. It is genuinely comfortable highway vehicle. Quiet, stable, smooth. At highway speed, the cabin is noticeably calmer than the Model X was. Adaptive cruise control works well. Long drives feel easy. Highway range consumption is higher than city driving. You are running at sustained speeds without regenerative braking, replenishing the battery. And it just, yeah, it's as the guys or some of the engineers in our association will always remind, it's just physics. Higher speeds, resistance, all that. So it's always going to be higher. We have been seeing roughly 22 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometer. No, that's not right. It's using about, because we still get about 400, 500 kilometers. Yeah, I had all the numbers in my head. Now they're gone. But it is basically going right in the rated range for the... Now, one of the complaints that I do have is the lane keep assist. When it is active on the highway, it has a tendency to ping pong from one side of the lane to the other. Slowly going from, even when you started it in the middle, it will slowly work its way from one side over to the other and back. It's not dangerous, and it's easy enough to manage, but it is noticeable and a bit annoying if you're used to the smoother implementation, especially with the Tesla. Basically, you set it and it just goes straight. It is something that I hope gets addressed in a software update, worth knowing about if you are considering this vehicle. The other thing that I'm working on just fixing by seat adjustment is the center console. I rest on the long trips. I kind of rest my knee on the center console, and it's that hard plastic, right? So, but just finding a different seating position and all that, and that should deal with that. On the charging network front, the Equinox EV supports up to 150 kilowatt DC fast charging, and if you've listened to the previous podcast, that's better than what our Tesla even was doing. And the corridors along Manitoba's main highways have improved significantly. Most fast charging stops on the Trans-Canada are at Tim's or some of these gas stations along Highway 1. But a lot of these places now you can use the Tesla ones that are more in the retail spots. It's going to be about 30 to 40 minutes to get you from about 20% to 80%. So practical for road trips, especially coming from the last major road trip that we did was with the Kona, and that was about 1 hour long stops. It's been a few years. A lot of you have been following along through the years, so here's my honest take on switching from the Model X to Equinox EV. The Model X was impressive for its time. The performance, the range, the software, it earned its reputation. And yes, we do have a Tesla service center here in Winnipeg, so service access was not an issue, as it sometimes can be in some markets. But driving a 10-year-old vehicle in 2026 means you are driving 10-year-old technology. And the Equinox EV, at the price point it sits at, with the incentive stack we discussed, is a genuinely compelling vehicle. Excellent range, comfortable ride, current technology. Do I miss the Falcon Wing doors? Honestly, no. They were spectacular to watch, but they were also a source of just headaches. Sometimes actual headaches. Because if you were in kind of a tighter spot, the doors wouldn't open fully, and then you hit your head on it. And yeah, it's just attracts attention also. We're not people that need the massive attention. We don't care about the attention. We were just looking for a vehicle that was more like a van for room. The ride, as I mentioned, is actually more comfortable than the Model X. That surprised me. And having access to a local dealer service through GM network rather than a single brand specific center is a practical advantage that is easy to overlook until you need it. Especially doing the road trips I can pop into. There's a lot more GM dealerships that I can pop into rather than a Tesla dealer. Let us talk about the camping trip we have in the works, because this one has a fun twist. First, some context. EV camping is not new for us. We camped with the Kona Electric. I did a whole episode last year on camping with the Tesla. So when people ask whether you can camp in an EV in Canada, my honest answer is yes. And we've been doing it for years. Our approach has always been pretty simple. We tend to camp at destinations that do not require us to go hundreds of kilometers out of the city. For our typical trips, we do not need charging stops along the way. We leave with a full charge and we are fine. And once we are at the campsite, we usually rent one with an electric hookup at the site. So we plug in overnight, wake up the next morning with a charged vehicle. It is honestly less stressful than people expect. Even with a 120 outlet, you're usually camping for a weekend. So we've made even a 120 outlet work just fine for us. So this summer we are planning a trip with a group of friends. My wife has been coordinating with her friends, which, as I always say, means the trip is actually going to happen. When the wife's organized it, it gets done. And here is what makes it interesting. We're going to have 2 electrified vehicles on this trip, the Equinox EV, and one of the couples just picked up a used plug-in hybrid. It's a Tucson plug-in hybrid. The same friend who got the Manitoba used EV rebate I mentioned earlier. So we will have a fully electric vehicle and a FEV out there together. And I'm genuinely looking forward to the multi-vehicle EV camping experience. And I will do a full trip report when we get back. If you have been wondering whether EV camping in Manitoba is doable, we've been doing it for years. And this summer, we're going to be doing it with others. So before we go, I want to mention the new business I got going on, True North EV Consulting. It's something that I have a passion for, helping people to switch from gas to electric, walking them through it, created questionnaires to help choose the right vehicle for people to pick out, whether that's fully electric or a plug-in hybrid. And we also have created spreadsheets, basically, to help show the cost of going from gas vehicle to electric, both on fuel and maintenance. And if you've been listening to this episode and thinking you want to make the switch to electric, but you are not sure where to start, this is exactly what we are here for. So True North EV Consulting helps Canadians find the right EV for their actual life. The right fit for how you drive, where you live, your home charging situation, and what incentives apply to you. Then we walk you through the whole process from choosing the vehicle to getting the charger set up, so the transition feels comfortable and not overwhelming. You can find us at truenorthev.ca, so reach out anytime, and we would love to help. All right. This is the 3-week Equinox EV report from Winnipeg. Quick recap, we are loving the vehicle. The ride is more comfortable than the Model X. The range is beating our expectations. We are happily avoiding gas stations at $1.70 a liter. And between the federal EVAP, the Costco rebate, and the Manitoba provincial program, we stacked over $10,000 in incentives on this purchase. The Manitoba provincial rebate program has been extended in budget 2026. It is still live. If you have been putting off your EV purchase, waiting to see if the program would continue, now you know. And we have got an EV camping trip coming this summer with 2 electrified vehicles. Stay tuned for that episode. I also want to give a genuine shout out to Bodhi over at Kilowatt. If you are not already listening to Kilowatt, please go find it right now. Bodhi is more knowledgeable about this space than I am, better connected, and puts out a fantastic show. So before I go, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. It really does help other EV enthusiasts find the show. And if you have a topic you would like us to cover, send us your suggestions to truenorthevpodcast@gmail.com. This show is for you. And you can find Manitoba Electric Vehicle Association at manitobaev.ca. And we are on Facebook at True North EV. Come be a part of the community. Thanks for listening at True North EV. I am James, and I'll talk to you next time.